Simon Cowell's life has often been viewed through the lens of fame, television, and global entertainment success, but beneath that public image lies a deeply personal story of transformation and emotional growth. Known worldwide for his role in shaping modern talent shows, he built a career defined by confidence, honesty, and an uncompromising eye for potential. Yet, beyond the stage lights and public attention, his journey took a significant turn with the arrival of fatherhood. This new chapter introduced experiences that reshaped his priorities and offered a different understanding of success, one rooted not only in achievement but also in presence and care. As he navigated this transition, his life began to reflect a balance between professional influence and personal responsibility. The story that unfolds is not just about fame or career milestones, but about the quieter, more intimate evolution of a man learning to adapt, understand, and grow through the experience of raising a child with unique needs. It highlights the shift from a fast-paced, high-pressure world to one where patience, empathy, and emotional awareness became central. This narrative reveals how life's most meaningful changes often happen away from the spotlight, in moments of reflection, adjustment, and connection. It is a journey that moves beyond public perception, offering a more human perspective on a figure often defined by television appearances and industry success. Rise of Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell's journey in the entertainment industry is one of steady determination, instinct, and an unmistakable ability to understand what audiences connect with. Long before he became a household name, he was already shaping the music and television world behind the scenes, learning how talent is discovered, developed, and presented to the public. Over time, his presence grew stronger as he moved from production roles into on-screen judging, where his honest and often direct feedback made him stand out from others in the industry. He became widely recognized through major talent platforms like Pop Idol, American Idol, The X Factor, and Britain's Got Talent, where his opinions often shaped careers overnight. While many viewed him as strict, others saw him as someone who valued authenticity and potential. His influence expanded further through his production company, where he helped guide emerging artists into global success. Despite the fame, Simon's life was heavily focused on work, with long schedules and constant travel becoming part of his routine. For many years, this professional intensity defined him completely, leaving little room for personal reflection or family life. Yet behind the scenes, he was building an empire that reshaped modern entertainment. His career became a symbol of ambition and persistence, showing how sharp judgment and creative vision could change entire industries. However, as time passed, life outside of work began to quietly reshape his priorities, setting the stage for a deeply personal transformation that would later influence everything he valued and focused on: building a global entertainment empire. As Simon Cowell's career expanded, so did his influence across global entertainment. He was not only a television personality, but also a strategic creator who understood how to turn raw talent into lasting success. Through his production ventures, he helped design formats that became international sensations, reaching audiences across continents. His work was marked by an ability to identify potential in unexpected places, often supporting artists who later became world famous. This approach made him both respected and debated, as his straightforward style challenged traditional norms in entertainment. Behind the scenes, his business decisions were carefully calculated, balancing creativity with commercial success. The empire he built was not accidental. It was the result of years of observation, risk-taking, and a deep understanding of audience behavior. Despite his professional achievements, the demands of his career often meant that personal time was limited. Work schedules were intense, leaving little space for rest or long-term pause. Yet, this relentless pace also defined his identity during those years. He became known not just for his opinions on stage, but for shaping the direction of modern talent-based television. His work influenced how talent shows were produced and consumed globally, setting new standards for entertainment formats. Even as his reputation grew, life remained centered around professional commitments. However, beneath the surface of success, changes in his personal life would eventually begin to shift his focus in ways that no career achievement could overshadow, gradually guiding him toward a different understanding of fulfillment and purpose beyond fame and business. A personal turning point in 2013. In 2013, Simon Cowell's personal life began to take a new direction that would later become a defining chapter in his journey. During this period, he entered into a relationship with Lauren Silverman, a development that attracted significant public attention due to existing personal circumstances. As the media quickly picked up the story, headlines circulated widely, placing his private life under intense scrutiny. Despite the external attention, this phase also marked a deeper shift in his personal world, as he began to experience emotions and responsibilities that differed from his previously work-centered lifestyle. The situation eventually led to changes in family dynamics, and over time, a new chapter emerged with the arrival of his son. This moment marked a significant transformation in Simon's life as he transitioned into fatherhood, something he had not previously envisioned for himself. The experience brought with it reflection, adjustment, and a reassessment of priorities that had long been centered on career achievements. As time moved forward, his attention gradually began to shift from professional commitments toward personal responsibility and family connection. While his public image remained tied to entertainment, privately he was entering a phase of life that required a different kind of focus, one grounded in care, presence, and long-term emotional investment. This turning point became the foundation for many of the changes that followed, shaping how he approached both his personal life and his understanding of what truly mattered beyond the spotlight of fame and success. Fatherhood and new responsibilities. The arrival of Simon Cowell's son marked a profound shift in his daily life and long-term priorities. Fatherhood introduced a sense of responsibility that extended beyond professional success or public recognition. For someone whose life had long been structured around work, schedules, and global commitments, this change brought a new emotional dimension that required patience, attention, and adaptability. He began to spend more time at home, adjusting his routines to be present for early milestones and everyday moments. Simple activities such as playtime, bedtime routines, and family interactions gradually became central parts of his day. This transition also influenced how he viewed his career, as he started making decisions based not only on opportunity, but also on family balance. Over time, work commitments that once dominated his schedule were reassessed, with greater importance placed on time spent at home. Fatherhood introduced him to experiences that were deeply personal and grounding, offering a perspective that differed from the fast-paced world of television and entertainment. It was a shift that required learning and adaptation, as he embraced a role that demanded emotional awareness and consistency. Through this journey, Simon began to understand that success was not only measured by professional achievements, but also by the quality of relationships and presence in his child's life. This realization gradually reshaped his identity, creating a balance between public life and private responsibility that would continue to evolve in the years ahead. Shifting priorities and life balance. As fatherhood became a central part of Simon Cowell's life, his priorities began to evolve in meaningful ways. The structure of his daily routine changed significantly, with more emphasis placed on being present for family life rather than constantly pursuing professional engagements. This shift did not happen abruptly but developed gradually as he adjusted to new responsibilities. Work commitments were still important, but they no longer held the same exclusive focus they once did. Instead, he began to evaluate opportunities based on how they aligned with his personal life and availability for his son. This change also influenced his approach to decision-making, encouraging a more thoughtful balance between career and home. The entertainment industry, known for its fast pace and constant demands, required him to set clearer boundaries than before. Over time, he became more selective about projects, prioritizing those that allowed flexibility and stability. At home, everyday moments gained new significance, offering a sense of grounding that contrasted with the public nature of his work. This period of adjustment reflected a broader transformation in how he defined success and fulfillment. Rather than focusing solely on external achievements, he began to value emotional presence and consistency within his family life. The balance he worked to achieve was not always simple, but it represented a meaningful shift in perspective, one that continued to shape his choices and lifestyle in the years that followed. Yearly observations and gentle concerns. As his son grew, Simon Cowell began noticing small developmental differences that encouraged closer attention and reflection. These early observations were not immediate causes for alarm, but rather subtle patterns that stood out during everyday interactions. He paid close attention to communication, behavior, and responses to different environments, simply as part of his natural role as a parent. Over time, he observed that his son experienced the world in a unique and sometimes more sensitive way. Certain environments, particularly those with louder sounds or larger crowds, appeared to require additional comfort and reassurance. Communication also developed in its own rhythm, prompting Simon to become more observant and patient in understanding how his son expressed needs and emotions. Rather than drawing conclusions quickly, he approached these moments with care, choosing to learn and understand rather than assume. Like many parents, he sought information and guidance to better support his child's development, recognizing that each child grows differently. These early reflections were shaped by love and attentiveness rather than concern alone. They encouraged him to slow down and observe more closely, deepening his understanding of individuality and childhood development. This stage of awareness became an important part of his parenting journey, helping him build a stronger emotional connection and a more responsive approach to his son's needs. It also laid the foundation for seeking professional insight later, ensuring that support would be guided by understanding, patience, and informed care rather than assumption or pressure. Searching for understanding and answers. As questions naturally arose, Simon Cowell began seeking a deeper understanding of his son's developmental journey. Rather than relying on assumptions, he chose to learn through observation, research, and conversations with professionals who specialized in child development. This phase was marked by curiosity and a strong desire to provide the best possible support. He explored a wide range of information, trying to make sense of the behaviors he had noticed over time. Each new insight added perspective, but also reminded him that every child follows a unique path of growth. Instead of viewing differences as limitations, Simon began to see them as variations that required thoughtful attention and care. This mindset shift played an important role in how he approached parenting decisions moving forward. He became more open to guidance, listening carefully to expert advice while also trusting his own instincts as a father. The process was not about finding immediate answers, but about building long-term understanding. It required patience, reflection, and emotional strength, especially as he balanced his public life with private responsibilities. During this time, he also became more intentional about creating a supportive environment at home, ensuring that his son felt safe, understood, and comfortable in daily life. This search for understanding was not driven by urgency alone, but by love and commitment. It marked a meaningful step in Simon's journey as a parent, shaping how he viewed development, individuality, and the importance of informed care. Strengthening parent-child connection. As Simon Cowell continued adapting to his son's unique developmental rhythm, the bond between them began to grow in deeper and more meaningful ways. Their connection was not built solely through words but through shared moments, presence, and understanding. Simon became more attentive to subtle forms of communication, learning to interpret gestures, expressions, and emotional responses. This created a different kind of relationship, one based on observation and emotional awareness rather than constant verbal exchange. Everyday routines became opportunities for connection, whether through play, simple activities, or quiet time spent together. Over time, Simon adjusted his approach to parenting, focusing less on expectations and more on responsiveness. He discovered that meaningful progress often came through patience and consistency rather than pressure. This shift allowed their relationship to develop naturally, without forcing conventional milestones. The emotional bond between them strengthened as Simon became more present and engaged in small, everyday experiences. He learned to appreciate moments that might seem ordinary to others but held significant meaning in their shared world. This growing connection also influenced his perspective on life, reminding him of the importance of emotional presence over external achievements. Through this journey, Simon found that fatherhood was not defined by comparison, but by understanding and acceptance. The relationship he built with his son became a source of grounding and purpose, shaping his identity in ways that extended far beyond his career. It was a connection that continued to evolve with time, rooted in patience, care, and unconditional support. Learning throughout daily routines became an essential part of life for Simon Cowell and his son, shaping structure, comfort, and understanding in their shared environment. Each day followed a rhythm designed to provide stability and predictability, which helped create a sense of security. Simon gradually adapted his schedule to align with these needs, ensuring that consistency remained at the center of their home life. Simple activities such as meals, playtime, and rest periods were approached with intention, allowing his son to feel more at ease in familiar patterns. These routines were not rigid, but flexible enough to accommodate comfort and emotional well-being. Through repetition, Simon noticed how his son responded positively to familiar structures, gradually building confidence in his surroundings. This experience also taught Simon the importance of patience, as progress often came in small and subtle steps. He began to appreciate the value of everyday moments, recognizing that growth was not always measured in major milestones, but in steady, quiet development. As these routines became part of their lifestyle, Simon found himself becoming more present and mindful. He learned to slow down and focus on the details of daily life, which deepened his understanding of his son's needs. This approach also strengthened their emotional connection, as shared routines created opportunities for trust and comfort to grow naturally. Over time, what began as simple structure evolved into a meaningful foundation for their relationship, supporting both stability and emotional development in a gentle and consistent way. Emotional adjustment and perspective shift. The journey of parenting brought a significant emotional shift for Simon Cowell, reshaping how he viewed life, success, and personal fulfillment. As he adapted to his son's unique needs, he began to experience emotions that were both deeply grounding and transformative. The fast-paced world he once lived in started to feel different, as priorities naturally shifted toward presence and emotional awareness. This change was not sudden but developed gradually through daily experiences and reflection. Simon began to see success in a new light, where meaningful connection and understanding held greater value than professional achievements alone. This perspective shift influenced not only his personal life but also his approach to work and decision-making. He became more selective, focusing on balance rather than constant engagement. Emotionally, he learned to embrace a slower and more mindful way of living, appreciating small moments that carried lasting significance. This period also brought reflection on the nature of individuality, helping him understand that differences do not define limitation but rather shape unique strengths. As he adjusted to this new perspective, Simon found a deeper sense of purpose in his role as a parent. The emotional journey was not always easy, but it brought clarity and growth. Over time, he discovered that fulfillment could be found in presence, patience, and acceptance. This shift became a defining part of his life, influencing how he connected with both his family and the world around him in a more thoughtful and compassionate way. Life before public understanding. Before the world began to understand the deeper reality of his home life, Simon Cowell was still widely seen through the lens of his public persona. He remained the sharp, decisive figure on television, known for his direct feedback and unwavering standards in talent competitions. Yet behind the cameras, his personal world was becoming increasingly centered around his son. This contrast between public perception and private reality created a unique balance that required careful navigation. While audiences continued to associate him with entertainment and judgment, his daily focus had quietly shifted toward parenting and emotional presence. This period was marked by a clear separation between what the public saw and what was truly unfolding in his personal life. At home, life was guided by routines, understanding, and adaptation, while his professional image remained unchanged in the eyes of viewers. Simon did not openly share the details of his private journey during this time, choosing instead to protect his family environment from unnecessary attention. This decision allowed his son to grow in a more stable and secure setting, away from external pressure. However, the contrast between these two worlds often required emotional balance, as he managed both public expectations and private responsibilities. It was a time of quiet transformation, where the foundation of his fatherhood experience was being built away from public awareness. Over time, this separation between public identity and private reality would gradually narrow, but during this phase, it remained carefully maintained to ensure privacy, stability, and emotional safety for his family. Slow recognition of unique needs. As daily life continued, Simon Cowell began to recognize more clearly the unique needs of his son through consistent observation and lived experience. These realizations did not come as sudden revelations but developed gradually through everyday interactions and routines. He noticed that his son responded differently to certain environments, often requiring additional time to adjust or feel comfortable. Communication also followed a distinct pattern, with expression taking forms that extended beyond traditional verbal interaction. Rather than interpreting these differences as challenges, Simon approached them with curiosity and patience, allowing understanding to develop naturally over time. This phase of recognition was important because it shaped how he adapted his parenting style. He became more attentive to subtle cues, learning to interpret emotions through behavior, expression, and presence. Each day provided new insights that helped him refine his approach, ensuring that his son felt supported in a way that suited his individual rhythm. This growing awareness also encouraged Simon to slow down his expectations and focus more on emotional connection rather than conventional developmental timelines. He began to understand that every child has a unique way of experiencing the world, and that true parenting involves adapting to those differences with care and consistency. This recognition did not create distance but instead deepened their bond, as understanding replaced uncertainty. Over time, what once seemed unfamiliar became a natural part of their daily life, strengthening both confidence and emotional stability within their shared environment. Creating a supportive environment. As Simon Cowell's understanding deepened, he began focusing on creating a home environment that fully supported his son's comfort and development. This process involved thoughtful adjustments designed to reduce stress and encourage stability. The home was gradually shaped into a calm and structured space where routines could be followed with ease. Lighting, sound levels, and room arrangements were considered carefully to ensure a peaceful atmosphere. Each change was made with the intention of making daily life more predictable and reassuring. Simon also placed importance on consistency, knowing that familiar surroundings help build confidence and emotional security. Beyond physical adjustments, emotional support became a central part of the environment. Patience, understanding, and gentle communication defined their interactions, allowing trust to grow naturally. This approach helped his son feel safe in expressing himself in his own way, without pressure or expectation. Over time, the home became more than just a living space. It became a foundation for learning, growth, and comfort. Simon's role extended beyond traditional parenting, as he actively shaped an environment that responded to his son's individual needs. This required continuous observation and adaptation, ensuring that the space evolved alongside his development. The effort put into creating this environment reflected a deep commitment to well-being and emotional balance. It also reinforced the idea that support is not only about guidance but also about building surroundings that nurture confidence, stability, and a sense of belonging. Navigating public attention quietly. As awareness of Simon Cowell's personal life gradually increased, he found himself navigating public attention with greater caution and intention. While interest from media and audiences remained strong, he chose to maintain a careful boundary between his public image and private life. This decision was guided by a desire to protect his son's privacy and ensure a stable upbringing away from unnecessary scrutiny. Rather than engaging with speculation, Simon focused on maintaining silence or offering limited, thoughtful responses when necessary. This approach allowed him to reduce external pressure while keeping attention away from personal matters that were not meant for public discussion. At the same time, he became more conscious of how public narratives could shape perceptions, which reinforced his commitment to privacy. Despite growing curiosity, he remained consistent in his decision not to expose intimate details of his family life. This required discipline, especially in an environment where public figures are often expected to share personal experiences openly. However, Simon prioritized long-term emotional security over short-term attention. By managing public interaction carefully, he created a protective boundary that allowed his son to grow without constant external influence. This balance between visibility and privacy became an important part of his life during this period. It demonstrated a shift from being fully immersed in public engagement to adopting a more measured and thoughtful approach, where personal values guided decisions more strongly than external expectations or media pressure. Deepening understanding of individuality. Over time, Simon Cowell's journey as a parent led him to a deeper understanding of individuality and human development. Through daily experiences with his son, he began to see how diverse and unique each person's path can be. This realization reshaped many of his long-held perspectives, particularly those formed through years in the entertainment industry, where performance and comparison often played a central role. At home, however, success was no longer measured by external standards but by personal growth, comfort, and emotional well-being. Simon learned that development is not linear and that each individual progresses in their own way, guided by internal rhythms rather than external expectations. This understanding helped him become more patient and adaptable, both as a parent and as an individual. He began to appreciate small achievements that reflected meaningful progress, even if they appeared subtle from the outside. This shift also influenced his emotional awareness, allowing him to connect more deeply with experiences that were previously overlooked in his fast-paced professional life. The concept of individuality became central to his approach, reinforcing the importance of acceptance and support without comparison. Through this evolving perspective, Simon developed a more compassionate outlook on life, recognizing that true growth often happens quietly and differently for everyone. This awareness not only strengthened his relationship with his son, but also transformed his broader understanding of people, empathy, and the value of respecting unique life journeys. Legacy of Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell's legacy in the entertainment world is defined not only by his sharp judgment and global success in shaping talent-based television, but also by the quieter transformation that came later in his life. For decades, he stood at the center of some of the most influential music and television formats ever created, helping discover and guide artists who went on to achieve international fame. His name became closely associated with honesty, high standards, and an unfiltered approach to evaluating talent. Beyond the screen, he built production systems that changed how entertainment was packaged and consumed across different countries, leaving a structural impact on the industry itself. However, his legacy extends beyond professional achievement. In later years, his role as a father introduced a deeply human dimension to his public identity. The shift in his priorities, from constant work to intentional presence at home, revealed a different side of success, one rooted in care, patience, and emotional understanding. This evolution added depth to his legacy, showing that influence is not only measured by career milestones but also by personal growth and responsibility. His journey reflects a balance between ambition and humanity, where life experiences reshaped his perspective on what truly matters. In many ways, Simon Cowell's legacy is both public and personal, a combination of entertainment innovation and quiet transformation within his family life. It stands as a reminder that even the most established figures continue to evolve, and that the most meaningful legacies are often shaped not only by professional accomplishments, but also by the relationships and values built along the way.